What's up, guys? Bryan Lebo here with your October Las Vegas market update video. We got a bunch to discuss on the show today. We're going to start off with the normal metrics, and then we're going to discuss the eviction moratorium that ends this week, and then discuss mortgage forbearances. Now, before we get started, I just went through the comments from last month, and I have to say, some of you have some really great questions. In the next week or two, I'm going to do a quick Q&A video where I answer the viewers' questions. So please shoot me a question below in the comments section or simply email me at brian@lebogroup.com and I'll pick the top 5 questions. Okay, now let's get started with the show. First up are last month's sales. Likely not a surprise to anyone, last month's sales were amazing. We sold just under 3,000 homes, which was a mind-boggling 18% increase over last September's sales. To make this even crazier, last year's September was an 11% increase over the previous year as well. Now, I've been tracking monthly sales since 2012, and this is the best September we've ever had. Ever. Okay, next up is median home prices. As you can see on the screen now, another record-breaking month for us. We ended September with a median price of $336,000. Not only is that a record for Las Vegas, but this also equates to an 8.4% increase over September of 2019. We're starting to get to the point where even if prices do drop, say 10% next year, if you purchased at the beginning of this year, you're still likely to be even either way. Just saying that out loud makes me want to scratch my head in absolute just disbelief. All right, now let's just talk about inventory. As you can see on the screen, we ended the month up literally 5 homes. 5 homes. Suffice to say, inventory is rock steady right now. Now, while inventory is stabilized, keep in mind that by selling 3,000 homes per month, we only have a little over a month and a half supply of inventory. Remember, a balanced market is 6 months. So this constitutes a strong seller's market. Okay, now let's peep in on our newest metric, which measures housing absorption. On the screen now, you can see the percentage of homes under contract based on the price range. Starting on the low end, you can see that 58% of homes on the market are currently under contract. This is huge when you consider that coming out of quarantine, we only had 47% in the first month. All right, next we have the majority of the entire housing market at $250,000 to $500,000. This came in at 52%. Then we have $500,000 to $750,000 at 39%. Next, we have $750,000 to $1 million, which actually dropped 3%, down to only 30% saturation. Another small drop-off was felt in the $1 million to $1.5 million mark. Now, last but not least is the ultra-luxury market of over $1.5 million. This surprisingly came in at 19%. Now, keep in mind that in June, this ultra-luxury market was only 11%. So, while every price segment has seen a higher rate of saturation, nothing compares to what the ultra-luxury market is seeing right now. I can say that personally, I've sold more ultra-luxury homes since COVID than the past 2 years combined. While we're getting all types of buyers from California, I don't think we've ever had so many wealthy Californians move to Nevada as we've seen recently. All right, now let's get away from the numbers a bit and speak about evictions. A few months ago, I did a video debunking the fear that 300,000 Nevadans would be evicted. Well, not only was that number just absurdly overblown, but our governor decided to extend the evictions 45 days to October 15th. So let's look at these numbers again. Normally we process about 3,000 evictions per month. Every property manager I've spoken to claims they're about double the delinquencies as normal. From 3.5% up to 7% delinquency rate. Now, on the low end of the market, such as low-end apartments, that number jumps to about 10%, maybe a little more depending on how bad. Now, keep in mind that evictions have taken place. You can evict a tenant for cause. Think staying past their lease term and squatting, or simply just violating a clause within the lease agreement. The only cause you cannot evict for until the 15th is for non-payment of rent. So let's just double the norm. 3,000 evictions per month multiplied now over 7.5 months. That's 22,500 evictions potentially backlogged. Now, if we're double the norm, that number jumps up to 45,000. Now look, 45,000 is a huge number. I'm not downplaying that. But that's also only 15% of the fear-mongering number that politicians and the media was shoving down our throats just a couple months ago. Now, subtract the evictions for cause, and you'll lose quite a few thousand right there. Then understand that because of these unprecedented times, yeah, I said precedented, many landlords and property management companies are working with tenants to avoid evictions by setting up repayment plans and in some cases, just forgiving some rent altogether if the tenant is willing to extend their lease period. So while we will see a rash of evictions if the governor doesn't pull another stunt and extend until after the election, it's going to be nowhere as bad as the media wants you to actually believe. Okay, last but not least, let's talk about mortgage forbearances. Early during quarantine, I told you that this was going to be a metric to really look at in October when the forbearances expired. And boy, is there an absolute ton to unpack here. First, let's talk about the legal aspects. While the mortgage forbearances expired at the beginning of October, most are allowed to extend another 6 months, which kicks the can down the road to April. So while we may start to have an idea of what's to come, we really won't be forced to deal with this mess now until April. But now keep in mind, if you're already in trouble because you missed 6 months of payments, there's just no going back after 12 months when we finally get to that April point. I just had a client contact me a few days ago to tell me that their servicer called them and tried to immediately collect 6 months worth of back payments. My client claimed that, or I should say, the servicer claimed that since my client didn't reach out to him by October 1st, they had the right to collect on the 6 months of back payments. Now, these are the exact type of phone calls I was worried about and warned you, and will likely be very pervasive come April. Meanwhile, FHFA, who presides over Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which insures FHA loans, extended their moratoriums on both evictions and foreclosures until January 1st. Now, let's talk some numbers here. Reported by CNBC and provided to them by market research company Black Knight, roughly 80% of borrowers in forbearance have chosen to extend. That means trouble. Also, while new forbearances had actually started declining for 6 straight weeks, a couple weeks ago, that trend started going the other direction when it rose by 21,000 in 1 week. CNBC states that 11.2% of FHA and VHA loans are now in forbearance nationally. Now, according to MarketWatch, who cited HUD's July Neighborhood Watch report, hard-hit cities like New York saw 27.2% delinquencies, Fort Lauderdale at 25.8%, and Miami at 24.4%. Now, Vegas wasn't listed on this list, but you can only imagine that with the highest percentage of unemployment in the entire country, you get the point, right? Now, I'll link all these articles in the description below so you can geek out as much as you want on your own. The moral of the story here is that just because on the surface our market appears to be wonderful, it doesn't mean that the foundation below it isn't severely cracking under its own weight. Now, I was really hoping that we'd have more insight by this time of the year, but with 80% of borrowers now extending their mortgage forbearances, I don't think anything is really going to happen until about the second quarter of next year. For now, we're going to simply have to wait and see what happens with the election and then see how our economy reacts. But without the government stimulus, without extending unemployment benefits and the duration of those benefits, millions of unemployed Americans, and especially Las Vegans, are going to find themselves out of money and out of resources soon. So while we can celebrate a wonderful housing market and the feeling of equity there, that's also just how we felt in 2007. Now, I'm not all doom and gloom, but if you ignore the past, you're forced to repeat it. Looking back now on 2004 to 2007, I mean, it's laughable just how absurd and unsustainable that growth was. With our housing market utterly defying economics, let's just be careful that we're not falling for the same trick in a different disguise. It's wonderful to hope that wealthy Californians will come flocking to Nevada and purchase all of our inventory if times get tougher. But that's a Vegas bet I'm certainly not willing to put my money on. All right, guys. Well, that's it for this month, everyone. Thank you for watching. Please be sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on your alerts. Shoot me some questions in the comments below, and I'll be back soon. So don't forget to vote, and have a wonderful Halloween, everyone.